No man has a right to be an amateur in the matter of physical training. It is a shame for a man to grow old without seeing the beauty and strength of which his body is capable. Although gunpowder revolutionized modern war, the physical strength and martial prowess are still key points in training of a modern soldier. With a firearm, there is less room for individual fighting. However, occasionally, melee clashes still take place in present-day trenches. The greatest military minds who had to base their strategy on gunpowder never forgot the importance of hand-to-hand fighting. There is no better example than Napoleon. In his commentaries on the wars of Gaius Julius Caesar, he states that building Roman-style fortified camps makes no sense when given a modern perspective, as such encampments could be easily crushed with concentrated artillery fire. Nonetheless, he still praises the Romans for their discipline gained thanks to their heavy, hard and daily training. In this video, we want to follow Napoleon's path and learn from the greatest primary source for military training, the Roman Empire, focusing on the physical aspects of legionary practice and presenting what are the best exercises that you can do in order to be more like an imperial Roman soldier yourself. The general guidelines and theory of soldier training have been more or less the same for ages, thought of at dawn of militarist conflict long before anybody wrote them down. They can be summarized in 5 points. Let's digest them with a Roman legionary perspective. 1. The recruit must be skillfully selected. In Republican times, men serving in the legions were not so much selected as rather destined for war. With Roman citizenship came the duty of service. Given the circumstances, Romans were prepared for war from boyhood. On the other hand, imperial legionaries, for whom service was not a vocation but a line of work, were chosen from a pool of applicants. Before they started the pre-service military training, they were enrolled into probationary period, during which they had to prove their preliminary fitness levels by completing 3 tests. Did the candidate possess sufficient velocitas? Did he show aptitude for learning to use arms? Did he give promise of the confidentia militaris? With this, we can transition to point 2 in soldier training theory. 2. The recruit must learn to use and take care for his arms. For Roman legionaries, it primarily meant keeping armor clean and weapons sharpened. For cleaning armor out of rust, soldiers most likely used a piece of rag and sand. This polishing method, although hard and time-consuming, did eventually bring expected results, but also taught patience and discipline. Moving on to the 3rd point. 3. The recruit must be put in as many as possible potential battlefield situations and learn to react to them. In ancient warfare, the greatest battlefield advantage was gained with better tactics, more effective maneuvering, and formation forming. Romans were good at it. For example, the famed testudo helped in many sieges. It was a formation created especially for these types of situations, capturing fortifications under heavy enemy fire. There were a few more other situations that Roman soldiers were trained for. These we get to reconstruct and study during campaigns with our legion. For all those who want to have a better look at our shows, please enjoy the most 2 recent videos from Legio Rapax, which were filmed and edited by yours truly, Contubernium Hirti. 4th point ahead. 4. The recruit must be highly disciplined to always obey orders and never avoid work. How did Romans achieve a great discipline? The answer is easy. Extremely harsh punishment. Whippings and even death penalties were commonplace in Roman military camps. Most of you have probably heard about decimations, a mass punishment of a whole legion that was disobedient or fled a battlefield in panic. Individual death penalties were given to soldiers who did not obey orders of a higher-ranking officer. A hypothetical centurion who led his men on a successful offensive during a battle nonetheless could have been sentenced to death if the maneuver was contradictory with a given order. Roman myths further increased the discipline amongst soldiers of the empire. In their minds, even legendary Brutus, a man who put an end to Rome's monarchy, sentenced his sons to death once he found out that they acted against the newly formed republic. And for the last but certainly not least point, 5. The recruit must be brought to the highest point of physical robustness by daily exercises. This is the part that interests us the most. What sort of daily training did the legionaries carry out in order to be ready for campaigning, and what are the alternative exercises that you can do in order to be more like a legionary yourself? Just in case you were to travel in time and enlist in an Imperial Legion, of course. No matter if you're tall or short, Imperial Legions dropped the height requirements which still applied during the times of Gaius Marius, a man who initiated a transformation of Roman army into a professional body. Vegetius shares the physical requirements for Imperial Tirones. Let therefore the youth who is to be chosen for martial tasks have observant eyes, hold his head up, have broad chest, muscular shoulders, strong arms, long fingers, not too extended a waist measure, lean hams and calves, and feet not distended with superfluous flesh but hard and knotted with muscles. Whenever you find these marks in the recruit, do not be troubled about his height. It is more useful for soldiers to be strong and brave than big. Naturally, it is impossible to train exactly like the Romans did. You can buy great reconstructed gear and train with it, but no amount of money can buy time that the legionaries had. Fortunately, there is a great alternative for cheap and very effective training that will prepare your body for a war waged in a Roman style. As you can probably guess by now, it is calisthenics, the discipline of strength training consisting of bodyweight exercises. Its name derives from conjunction of two ancient Greek words, kalos meaning beauty and stenos meaning strength. With that, I think we can safely assume that ancient soldiers' training incorporated some elements of the beautiful strength workout. With selection out of the way and exercises inspiration in place, let's move on to training. Roman soldiers were trained in 4 main areas: marching, jumping and climbing over obstacles, trench digging and camp building, weapon use. For marching, 2 paces were in force in the legions, ordinary and fast. In order to learn these, recruits were ordered to march 20 Roman miles over 5 hours time for ordinary pace and 24 Roman miles over the same time for fast pace. Here, calisthenics might not be much of use other than strengthening your legs. It is better to just go for a 5-hour walk and measure your speed. Extra points if you take a heavy bag for the march. After all, on the march, legionaries had to carry over 20-kilogram pack filled with arms, provisions and camp building equipment. Jumping and climbing over obstacles were skills especially useful for fortifications capturing. Here calisthenics comes in handy, especially as in the Roman army, climbing over camp's walls and jumping over camp's ditches came under threat of death sentence. Alternatively, pull-ups and jumping sit-ups will improve your skills in this training domain without risking your life. When doing pull-ups, remember to keep your elbows to the sides and your core tight. If you can't do pull-ups, focus on the downward motion for now. With regular training, you will be able to do full pull-ups in no time. With sit-ups, keep your back straight, drive your knees outward, and do not lift your heels from the ground, unless you want to jump. Trench digging and camp building. Every night on campaign, legions slept in well-fortified camps surrounded by ditches and ramparts. These camps did not appear out of nothing. They were built every day by soldiers. In times of peace, they were hired to do construction works, such as building roads. For this type of work, upper body strength was necessary. As we have already covered the back with pull-ups, there is no better exercise to show here than good old push-ups, which will make your chest strong. When doing them, make sure to keep your elbows close to your body and draw back your shoulders. If you can't do push-ups, focus on the downward motion, just like with the pull-ups. Weapon use. Roman legionaries exercised with special training weapons and shields that outweighed those later used in battle. This was done firstly to make soldiers stronger and improve their endurance. Other than that, there is no more information in ancient texts on how Romans trained with arms. If you happen to know of some texts, please share them in the comments. Anyway, we plan to explore this field in our future videos using experimental archaeology. Stay tuned for that, and for now, focus on increasing your strength. Thank you for watching. I hope this inspired you, so that with first rays of this spring's sun, you will go out to your local outside gym, embrace your inner Roman, and train hard. Remember, Roma caput mundi.